Commander Wells stood perfectly still, his four eyes blinking in sequence as he watched the human instructor demonstrate combat techniques. The commander's scaled skin shifted colors slightly, betraying his unease despite his professional demeanor. Around him, 30 of his best alien Marines watched with similar expressions of fascination and concern. The human, Staff Sergeant Mike Thompson, moved with a fluid grace that seemed impossible for a creature from a high-gravity death world. He was conducting a joint training session at the newly established Earth Galactic Defense Force base in Nevada, and the aliens couldn't help but stare at his casual display of strength. "Notice how your human opponents will likely approach from a low stance," Thompson explained, his voice clear and steady in the morning air. "We evolved as pursuit predators, which means we're built for endurance and adaptability." One of the alien Marines raised a hand, its thin fingers trembling slightly. "Instructor, is it true that humans can continue fighting even after sustaining injuries that would incapacitate most species?" Thompson smiled, and several aliens took an instinctive step back. They were still getting used to the way humans showed their teeth as a friendly gesture. "That's correct, Marine. Our bodies are remarkably stubborn. We can function through pain that would stop most species in their tracks." Commander Wells made a note on his datapad. When his superiors had first ordered this joint training initiative, he had strongly objected. Humans were classified as a Class 12 Death World species, making them one of the most dangerous intelligent life forms in the known galaxy. Their home planet was a nightmare of high gravity, extreme temperature variations, and aggressive predators. The fact that they had not only survived but thrived in such conditions made them fascinating subjects for xenobiologists. "Staff Sergeant," Wells spoke up, his translator converting his harmonic tones into clear English, "perhaps you could demonstrate the human capacity for rapid tactical adaptation." Thompson nodded and gestured to two of his own soldiers who had been standing at the side of the training area. "Jones, Smith, come give our friends a show." The two humans moved into position, and what followed made several of the alien Marines emit low whistles of surprise, their species equivalent of gasping. The humans demonstrated their fighting techniques at full speed, showing how they could switch between different styles mid-combat, adapting to their opponent's movements in real time. "Remarkable," Wells muttered to his second-in-command. "Their reaction speed rivals our best enhanced warriors, and they achieve this naturally." As the demonstration continued, the alien Marines began to understand why the Galactic Council had been so eager to establish an alliance with Earth. Humans weren't just strong or fast, they were adaptable in a way that defied conventional military doctrine. Where most species specialized in specific forms of combat, humans seemed to absorb and combine techniques from multiple sources with ease. Thompson called an end to the demonstration and gathered the mixed group of human and alien soldiers around him. "Tomorrow, we'll begin actual combat training. I know some of you have concerns about training with humans, given our classification as a Death World species. I want to assure you that safety protocols are in place, and we've never had a serious incident in these joint exercises." Commander Wells watched as his Marines relaxed slightly at Thompson's words. The human had an unexpected gift for putting others at ease, despite his intimidating physical capabilities. Perhaps this training program would work out after all. As the group dispersed for their midday break, Wells approached Thompson. "Staff Sergeant, I must admit my initial skepticism about this program is being challenged. Your species continues to surprise us." Thompson's eyes crinkled with amusement. "Commander, if there's one thing you'll learn about humans, it's that we're full of surprises. Just wait until you see what we can do in a real crisis." Wells would later remember those words as prophetic, though at the time, he had no way of knowing just how soon that crisis would come or how it would change everything he thought he knew about human resilience. The morning of the accident started like any other at the joint training facility. The sun had barely risen over the Nevada desert when Staff Sergeant Thompson led the mixed group of human and alien Marines through their warm-up exercises. Commander Wells observed from his usual position, noting how his troops had grown more comfortable around their human instructors over the past week. "Today's exercise involves live fire scenarios," Thompson announced, standing before the assembled group. "We'll be using the new Mixed Species Combat course. Remember your safety protocols." The training course was a marvel of engineering, designed to accommodate both human and alien physiologies. Holographic targets, physical obstacles, and automated defense systems created a challenging environment for all participants. The alien Marines moved through their preparation routines, their scaled skin shifting through careful patterns of camouflage. Nobody noticed the small malfunction in one of the automated defense turrets. A tiny error in its targeting system, a fractional miscalculation that would change everything. The first group had just entered the course when Thompson's experienced eye caught something wrong. The turret's movement was slightly off, its barrel turning a few degrees too far. He was already moving before anyone else noticed the danger. "Down," Thompson's voice boomed across the training ground. 3 alien Marines froze in confusion, their species' natural response to sudden danger. The turret's whine grew to a dangerous pitch. What happened next seemed to unfold in slow motion to Commander Wells. Thompson launched himself forward, covering the distance to the alien Marines in impossible bounds. His arms wrapped around 2 of them, while he used his body to shield the third. The turret misfired, sending a concentrated burst of energy straight at them. The explosion lit up the morning sky. When the dust settled, Wells couldn't believe what he saw. Thompson lay on the ground, his left arm severed just below the shoulder. The 3 alien Marines were shaken but unharmed, protected by his body. What happened next would be recorded in every alien medical text about humans for decades to come. Thompson pushed himself up with his remaining arm. His face was pale, but his voice remained steady as he called out, "Medical team to the course. 3 potential shot cases, priority check on Blue Squad Marines." The alien medics rushed forward, expecting to find the human in critical condition. Instead, Thompson was already applying his own tourniquet, his movements precise despite the massive trauma. "Sir," one of the alien medics chittered in their native language to Commander Wells. "He should be unconscious. The pain alone should have shut down his system." Thompson looked up at the gathering crowd, his face covered in dust, but his eyes clear. "Commander, you'll want to suspend training for today. Equipment inspection team needs to check all automated systems." Wells could only stare in amazement. His medical training told him that any of his species would be in terminal shock from such an injury. Yet here was this human, not only conscious but giving orders and thinking about future safety protocols. The medical team finally convinced Thompson to lie down on the hover stretcher, though he insisted on giving a full report of the incident during transport. The alien Marines he had saved watched in stunned silence, their scales shifting through patterns that indicated deep emotional impact. "Commander," one of the younger alien Marines spoke up, their voice trembling. "The human saved us. He knew he would be injured, but he still." Wells nodded slowly. "Yes, he did. And he's still protecting you by staying conscious and clear-headed enough to prevent anyone else from being hurt by that malfunctioning equipment." As they watched the medical team take Thompson away, Wells made a decision. This incident would require a complete rewrite of their species' understanding of human capabilities. He had just witnessed something that went beyond physical toughness. This was a level of psychological and physiological resilience that defied explanation. The real surprise, he would soon learn, was that this was just the beginning of what Staff Sergeant Thompson would teach them about human determination. Dr. Root had been the chief medical officer for the Galactic Defense Force's Earth Division for 3 years, but nothing in her training had prepared her for Staff Sergeant Thompson. She stood in her medical bay, all 6 fingers of her right hand tapping rapidly on her datapad as she recorded her observations. Patient continues to display awareness and cognitive function far beyond expected parameters for traumatic injury. She spoke into her medical log. Hour 6 after limb loss, and vital signs remain frustratingly stable. Thompson lay on the medical bed, various monitoring devices attached to his remaining arm and chest. Unlike any other species Dr. Root had treated, he was not only conscious but making jokes with the medical staff. "Doc, any chance I could get some water?" Thompson asked, his voice surprisingly strong. "And maybe we could turn down these monitors. The beeping is getting a bit annoying." Dr. Root's antenna twitched in disbelief. "Staff Sergeant, you lost an entire limb less than 6 hours ago. By all medical knowledge, you should be in a trauma-induced coma." Thompson actually chuckled. "Yeah, human bodies don't really follow the rules. Speaking of which, when can we start talking about prosthetics? I'd like to get back to training as soon as possible." The medical team exchanged glances. One of the junior medics dropped a tray of instruments in shock, causing a loud clatter. Commander Wells chose that moment to enter the medical bay. He had spent the last few hours dealing with the aftermath of the training accident and filing reports to both human and alien military commands. "Doctor," Wells addressed Dr. Root, "how is our patient?" Before Dr. Root could answer, Thompson raised his remaining arm in a casual salute. "Ready to get back to work, sir. Just need to figure out the paperwork for a replacement arm." Dr. Root's skin shifted to a pale yellow, a sign of professional frustration in her species. "Commander, I've been studying the human medical records provided by their military. Did you know they have centuries of experience with prosthetic limbs? They were making functional replacements even before they had electricity." Wells moved closer to Thompson's bed, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence as he processed this information. "Is this true, Staff Sergeant?" "Sure it is," Thompson replied. "Started with wooden legs for soldiers hundreds of years ago. Now we've got neural-linked prosthetics that can sometimes work better than the original limbs. Military-grade ones are pretty impressive." Dr. Root pulled up a holographic display showing human medical history. Their early medicine was practically medieval by our standards. But they kept going. They just adapted, made new limbs out of whatever materials they had available, and their bodies accepted these replacements, learned to use them. Their bodies learned. Wells asked, confusion evident in his harmonic tones. "Neural plasticity," Dr. Root explained, excitement overcoming her professional demeanor. "Human brains can rewire themselves to work with artificial limbs. They can learn to control mechanical additions as if they were natural body parts. It's beautiful from a medical perspective." Thompson listened to this exchange with mild amusement. "Doc, if you're interested in human medical history, wait until you hear about our pain management techniques. We figured out how to block nerve signals with local anesthetics way before we had modern medicine." Dr. Root's antenna stood straight up, a sign of intense scientific interest. "You mean you could surgically alter bodies without putting the entire system into suspended animation? How did you prevent shock response?" "We just worked through it," Thompson shrugged with his remaining shoulder. "Humans are pretty good at dealing with pain when we need to." Wells watched this exchange with growing understanding. Every new piece of information about humans seemed to challenge their preconceptions. Here was a species that didn't just survive catastrophic injuries. They had spent their entire history finding ways to overcome them. "Doctor," Wells said finally, "I believe we need to update our medical protocols for human personnel. And perhaps we need to learn more from them about resilience." Thompson smiled from his bed. "Happy to teach you, sir, just as soon as we get started on that new arm." 3 days after the accident, Commander Wells found himself standing outside the base's Physical Rehabilitation Center, watching something that his species would have considered impossible. Staff Sergeant Thompson was doing one-armed push-ups. "Sir," Thompson acknowledged between repetitions, just getting started with the morning routine. The alien medical staff had gathered by the windows, making notes and speaking in hushed tones. Dr. Root stood among them, her antenna twitching rapidly as she recorded every detail of Thompson's workout. "Staff Sergeant," Wells said carefully, "our medical protocols suggest a minimum recovery period of 3 months before any physical activity." Thompson completed his set and stood up smoothly. "With respect, sir, human protocols are different. If we stay idle too long, our muscles start to weaken. Better to keep active while waiting for the prosthetic. A young alien marine named Trill, one of the 3 Thompson had saved, approached with a water bottle. "Instructor Thompson," the others wanted me to ask, "will you really be able to return to combat training?" Thompson took a drink and smiled. "Return? I haven't left. In fact, I've been thinking about how to teach one-armed combat techniques. Could be useful for everyone to know." The gathered aliens stared in silence. In their culture, losing a limb meant an automatic end to military service. The injured would be honored and cared for, but never expected to return to duty. Yet here was this human, planning new training programs while still recovering from major surgery. "Watch this," Thompson said, moving to the training mat. "Even with one arm, there are plenty of effective combat moves. Trill, would you mind helping me demonstrate?" The young alien hesitated but stepped forward. What followed was an impressive display of adaptability. Thompson showed how to use body weight, leverage, and momentum to compensate for the missing limb. He moved with a grace that seemed to defy his injury. Dr. Root rushed to add more notes to her already extensive file. "The human pain threshold continues to exceed all known parameters," she muttered. "And the speed of adaptation, remarkable." As the days passed, Thompson's routine grew more intense. He modified exercise equipment to work with his temporary condition, created new training techniques, and even helped the engineering team design improvements for the upcoming prosthetic arm. The most fascinating aspect, Dr. Root explained to Commander Wells 1 week into Thompson's recovery, is not just the physical healing, it's the psychological adaptation. He's not just coping with the loss, he's already planning how to be better than before. Wells watched as Thompson worked with a group of both human and alien Marines, teaching them techniques he had developed specifically for situations where they might lose the use of a limb. The aliens were particularly amazed by the concept of muscle memory, the human ability to train their bodies to react automatically in combat situations. "In my culture," Wells said quietly, "we have a saying. The wounded warrior honors us by living in peace. But humans just don't know when to quit." Dr. Root finished, her tone mixing exasperation with admiration. "Their bodies are designed to rebuild, to adapt. And their minds simply refuse to accept limitations." Thompson finished his demonstration and walked over to them, his movements already smooth and confident. "Doc, any word on when that prosthetic will be ready? The engineers mentioned something about integrating some alien tech with our neural interfaces." "You're already thinking about the next stage?" Wells asked, though he really shouldn't have been surprised anymore. Thompson's eyes sparkled with enthusiasm. "Commander, losing a limb isn't the end of the story. For humans, it's just the beginning of a new chapter. And I've got some ideas about how to make this new chapter really interesting." The aliens were beginning to understand that with humans, every obstacle was just another opportunity to prove what they were capable of. The day Thompson received his new prosthetic arm, the entire base seemed to hold its breath. The medical bay was crowded with observers, doctors, engineers, and Marines from both species, all eager to witness the integration of human and alien technology. The arm itself was a masterpiece of engineering. Sleek and powerful, it combined the durability of human military prosthetics with the advanced neural interfaces of alien design. Its surface gleamed with a subtle blue sheen, power cores humming quietly beneath the exterior plating. "Now remember," Dr. Root explained, her antenna vibrating with excitement, "most species require at least 2 weeks of neural calibration before attempting any complex movements. We should start with basic motor control tests." Thompson flexed his new fingers before she finished speaking. The entire room went silent as he rotated the wrist, bent the elbow, and then gave a perfect military salute. "How?" Dr. Root's voice trailed off as she stared at her medical readings. "The neural integration should take days to stabilize." Thompson grinned. "Human brains are pretty good at adapting, Doc. We've had plenty of practice with tool use over our evolution. Besides, I've been mentally rehearsing these movements for weeks. Commander Wells stepped forward, all four eyes focused on the seamless movements of the prosthetic. You've been practicing, in your mind. Sure, Thompson replied, picking up a water bottle to demonstrate fine motor control. Humans can strengthen neural pathways through visualization. I've been imagining using the arm ever since you showed me the specs. The alien engineers huddled around their tablets, frantically taking notes as Thompson began testing the arm's range of motion. He moved from simple tasks to increasingly complex ones, his natural movements defying their expectations with each passing minute. "Watch this," Thompson said, moving to the training area that had been set up in the medical bay. He picked up a training weapon with his new arm, smoothly ejecting and replacing the power cell. "The response time is actually better than my original arm. Your neural interface tech is impressive." Dr. Root's medical sensors were recording everything. The human nervous system is actually improving the efficiency of our technology. It's like their bodies refuse to accept any limitations, even artificial ones. The real surprise came when Thompson asked to try some combat moves. The aliens had prepared to stop him, but Dr. Root, who had learned to expect the unexpected from humans, gave her approval. Thompson moved through a series of complex combat stances, the prosthetic arm moving in perfect coordination with his natural one. He had modified the standard forms to take advantage of the prosthetic's enhanced strength and speed, creating a new fighting style on the spot. "Incredible," muttered one of the alien engineers. "He's not just using the arm, he's innovating with it." Commander Wells watched as Thompson demonstrated how the prosthetic could shift through different modes, from maximum strength for combat to delicate precision for technical work. "Staff Sergeant, you've exceeded every benchmark we had for prosthetic integration. How does it feel?" Thompson paused his exercises, looking at his new arm with appreciation. "It feels like an upgrade, sir. Humans have a saying, 'What doesn't kill us makes us stronger.' Sometimes that means literally stronger." The alien medical team was already discussing how to update their rehabilitation protocols based on Thompson's performance. Dr. Root's final notes for the day included a fascinating observation. Humans don't just overcome disabilities, they turn them into advantages. Their adaptability extends beyond simple survival into a realm of continuous improvement. As Thompson left the medical bay that evening, already planning new training exercises that would incorporate his enhanced capabilities, the aliens were beginning to understand something profound about humans. They didn't just recover from setbacks, they evolved from them. The training ground fell silent as Staff Sergeant Thompson walked out for his first official day back on full duty. His new prosthetic arm gleamed in the morning sun, and his familiar instructor's vest had been modified to accommodate it. Commander Wells and his entire squad stood at attention, waiting to see what would happen next. "All right, Marines," Thompson called out, his voice carrying across the field. "Today we're going to learn something new, something that neither humans nor aliens have tried before." The alien Marines exchanged glances. During Thompson's recovery, stories about him had spread throughout the Galactic Defense Force. Some claimed he was now stronger than before the accident. Others said he had completely rewritten the training manual for combat with prosthetics. "Sir," young Trill stepped forward, "is it true that you've developed new combat techniques specifically for enhanced limbs?" Thompson smiled and moved to the center of the training area. "Better than that. I've developed techniques that work for both natural and prosthetic limbs, for humans and aliens alike. Who wants to help me demonstrate?" 3 alien Marines volunteered immediately, the same 3 he had saved during the accident. As they moved forward, Dr. Root and her medical team watched from their observation post, instruments recording everything. What followed left even the most experienced alien warriors speechless. Thompson demonstrated a series of combat moves that perfectly blended the strengths of both species. He showed how his prosthetic arm could switch from human-level strength to enhanced power modes, teaching the aliens how to adapt their fighting styles to face either capability. "The key isn't in having the strongest arm or the fastest reflexes," Thompson explained, helping an alien Marine up after a demonstration. It's about understanding how to use whatever advantages you have, natural or artificial. Commander Wells watched as his Marines began practicing the new techniques. He noticed something remarkable. They were moving with more confidence than ever before. The presence of Thompson's prosthetic arm had somehow made him more approachable to the aliens, bridging a gap they hadn't even realized existed. "You've changed their entire perspective on adaptation," Wells said to Thompson during a break. "In our culture, losing a limb meant losing your identity as a warrior. But you've shown them something different." Thompson demonstrated a complex maneuver, his prosthetic arm moving in perfect sync with his natural one. "Humans have a long history of turning setbacks into advantages, sir. We've learned that sometimes our greatest strengths come from overcoming our biggest challenges." The afternoon session introduced even more innovations. Thompson had worked with the base's engineers to develop training programs that simulated various types of injuries and disabilities. The goal wasn't just to teach Marines how to fight through injuries. It was to help them understand how to adapt and improve regardless of circumstances. "Watch closely," Thompson instructed, demonstrating how his prosthetic arm could actually perform certain tasks better than a natural limb. The goal isn't to get back to normal. The goal is to find new ways to be exceptional. Dr. Root's medical report that evening included a noteworthy observation. The human concept of disability appears fundamentally different from our own. They don't see it as an end state, but as a transition point to new capabilities. As the training session ended, Commander Wells noticed something extraordinary. His Marines were no longer staring at Thompson's prosthetic arm with concern or curiosity. Instead, they were asking him questions about enhancement possibilities and adaptation techniques. What had once been seen as a career-ending injury had become an inspiration for improvement. "Staff Sergeant," Wells said as they walked back to the base, "I believe you've done more than just return to duty. You've started a revolution in how we think about recovery and adaptation." Thompson flexed his prosthetic hand, the subtle blue glow of its power core pulsing steadily. "Just wait until you see what I have planned for tomorrow's lesson, sir. This is only the beginning." 1 year after the accident, the Galactic Defense Force's training facility in Nevada had become the most requested posting in the galaxy. Alien Marines from dozens of species competed for spots in what had become known as Thompson's program. Commander Wells stood at his usual observation post, watching Staff Sergeant Thompson, now Chief Instructor Thompson, lead a mixed group of human and alien trainees through advanced combat exercises. The training ground had been completely redesigned based on Thompson's innovations, featuring adaptable environments that could challenge both natural and enhanced abilities. The quarterly report just came in, Chief Instructor, Wells said as Thompson joined him during a break. "Your training methods have been adopted by 15 different species. The medical protocols you helped develop have saved over 300 careers that would have ended under the old system." Thompson's prosthetic arm had undergone several upgrades over the year, each one incorporating new improvements based on his feedback. The subtle blue glow of its power core had become a symbol of hope for injured warriors throughout the galaxy. "Did you see the latest group from the Centauri sector?" Thompson asked, gesturing to a group of tall, crystalline beings practicing with modified combat gear. They used to retire their warriors if they developed even hairline fractures. Now they're learning to reinforce and enhance their damaged areas instead. Dr. Root, who had become the galaxy's leading expert on human-inspired medical techniques, approached them with her ever-present datapad. "The psychological impact has been even more significant than the physical one," she reported. "Warriors who would have accepted medical discharge are now asking about enhancement options. They're calling it the Thompson effect, the transformation of injury into opportunity." The base had expanded to include a major research center where human and alien scientists worked together to develop new medical and combat technologies. The prosthetics program had grown far beyond its original scope, now including innovations for every known species in the galaxy. "Remember Trill," Thompson said, pointing to where his former student now led his own training group. He just developed a new combat style specifically for enhanced warriors. Says he got the idea from watching old videos of my recovery process. Wells's scales shifted to a proud purple color as he watched his former Marines, now instructors themselves, teaching the next generation. You've changed more than just how we handle injuries, Thompson. You've changed how we think about limitations entirely. The afternoon brought a special ceremony. The Galactic Council had decided to officially redesignate humans from Class 12 Deathworld species to Class 12 Adaptive Species, a new classification created specifically to recognize humanity's unique capabilities. A year ago, Thompson addressed the gathered crowd, his prosthetic arm gleaming under the ceremonial lights. I lost a limb saving 3 Marines. Today, those same Marines are helping warriors across the galaxy learn how to turn their own setbacks into strengths. That's not just human resilience. That's the power of different species learning from each other. Dr. Root's final research paper on the event included a telling observation. The true legacy of the Thompson incident isn't just about physical recovery or combat adaptation. It's about how one species' response to adversity can inspire an entire galaxy to rethink what's possible. As the ceremony ended, a young alien cadet approached Thompson with a question that had become common among new recruits. Sir, is it true that humans become stronger after they're injured? Thompson smiled, flexing his prosthetic arm as he considered the question. Not exactly, cadet. We just refuse to believe that any limitation is final. And now, thanks to what we've all learned together, that's becoming true for every species in the galaxy. Commander Wells watched as Thompson began explaining his philosophy to the eager cadets. In just 1 year, a single human's response to injury had launched a cultural revolution throughout the Galactic Defense Force. It was a powerful reminder that sometimes the greatest victories don't come from avoiding hardship, but from how you choose to overcome it.